Little Will. There you go. There you go. What it do, everybody? Welcome to a new week, a new episode of Tech File. We're running a little shorthanded today, but that's all right. That's all right. We're going to make sure that we get in here, have a good show, and get on out of here. So let's get to this theme music and get to the show. Welcome to episode 365 of Technical File, the sports podcast you never knew you needed. Oh, yeah, Tim ain't here. So, TIMKINZ, the number 3, getting back from vacation, got that jet lag. He's not here this week with us.
I am still the Eric J.
Only known as
the Eric J.
And I'm Camille, point guard of the crew, the real life Tifa Lockhart, the girl next door, holding it down for all the women who love sports. The K in Tech File, K Harris, the gentleman, is also not joining us this week. He is under the weather. So make sure y'all keep him in your thoughts and your prayers so he can have a speedy recovery. So, yeah, running a dynamic duo today. And before we get into the show, some housekeeping. Make sure you follow us on all of our social medias at Technical File on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Technical File Podcast on Facebook and YouTube. Just don't forget TECKNICAL when you're spelling that technical. Make sure you join us live for the show every week. We record Tuesday evening. So if you're on the YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You'll get alerted when we go live, and you can come join and be part of the show with us as well. And I think that sums up the housekeeping for the most part going on. So this week, no game needs a name. Since it's just me and E, we're going to skip the game. Come back with that when we're fully stocked up. And we're going to talk a little NFL, a little NBA. We are going to save our crown jewel review and some WWE talk until next week when we have the full cast here. It's been some busy days for the Tech File crew. So need a little bit more time before we discuss that. So yeah, it'll be NFL, Packer heavy for the most part. We got Packer fans here. NBA, we're going to talk a little Bucks as well as some undefeated teams. So no need to delay. Let's get right on into it. All right. So let's start NFL. Eric, you were talking about the Packers, and a few weeks ago when Tim was asking us what kind of team is this particular Packers team, and you said they're young. They're talented, but they're young, and that shows a lot. And I think you saw a bit of that on Sunday against that loss to the Lions.
Yeah, 100%. It's a little concerning that we're still having the same issues with drops and penalties and mental mistakes and just the things that are hallmarks of young, immature teams. But I was somewhat reassured because I felt like talent-wise, they were right there with Detroit. And if they didn't help Detroit beat them, I think this would have been a game. Jordan throws that terrible pick six at the end of the half.
Yeah.
They dropped, I don't know how many passes on third down or ones that would have been big plays. Wicks drops a touchdown, which was a little bit behind them, but, it's
got to catch it.
It's Lambeau in November. The conditions are never going to be perfect. So, it was, I wouldn't say frustrating necessarily. It was frustrating in the moment. But when I took stock of it in totality, it was okay, we're right there. And honestly, we maybe have a better game for them in Detroit because then you're playing in a perfect,
environment,
neutral environment. So, and hopefully Jordan Love is healthier by then. That is one thing that is in light of the conversation about Anthony Richardson, and I brought it up last week. I'm if he's tired, maybe he should come out. It is a thing where it's if you're not going to allow quarterbacks to take themselves out of games, like you have to do what's in their best interest. And I feel like there were points in that game specifically where it's like he can't really protect himself. He's not being able to drive through his throws. Like, is Malik Willis a better option in this specific instance where you probably shouldn't be throwing the ball that much anyway because the weather conditions, like maybe the run heavy game plan would have been more beneficial with a healthier quarterback.
I really liked the Lions' offensive game plan in this game. Given the fact that they were playing in the elements in these conditions, you didn't see Jared Goff out here trying to get some down the field throws. He was not throwing that ball 20 yards deep. He was making sure that they were quick, accurate, quick throws to get out to his guys. And they handled the weather better than did the Packers. Like, I know that Myers was out, so you're out without your starting center. Jordan Love didn't practice all week. You have a different guy in under center. The snaps probably aren't going to be as clean. You didn't have time to practice all of that. And then you're also playing in the elements. But to your point about mistakes, there was just bad snaps. Even some of the ones that Love was able to corral in, they were still low or just off target. So he had to do a lot of work just to get the snap. You had the drops, as you mentioned. You had the pre-snap penalties for this team. And then when the Lions did have a moment where they weren't disciplined themselves, the Packers weren't able to take advantage of it. Like when Brian Branch gets ejected from the game, you get 15 yards. He continues yapping. He flips off the crowd or the ref, whoever he was flipping off. He's ejected out the game. That's another 15 on top. So they're gifted 30 yards. The very first play after that is a false start for the Packers. They come away with no points on that drive because McManus missed his first field goal as a Packer. Like, it was just all these little things. And at this point in the season, I'm tired of the penalties, the pre-snap penalties in particular. The Packers have had 5 games where they've had at least 7 penalties. Way, way too many. They got to clean it up. But you can see the avenue and the pathway for it. So, like, I'm encouraged. And they're doing better than they were at this time last year. So they were a strong second half finish team last year, hoping they can be so again this year. And I see Dwayne in the comments. What up, though? What up, sir? I was hoping y'all would lose Vikings, but didn't pan out that way.
Also, I don't know what people were talking about with the ejection. Like, Melton drops the ball. The ball is past Branch. Like, it's at his feet. He still 1-2 drops his head, hits him in his helmet. It's like, that's kind of like a textbook ejection. And if we're trying to legislate those hits out of the game, like those are the prime ones that you need to be cracking the whip on. So, and that's not me. Like, if a Packer did that, I'd be like, yeah, he hit him in the head with a helmet. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. In real time, I was shocked that he got ejected. I thought it was just going to be the flag and then you play on, but when they ejected him, I was like, oh, wow, a break for Green Bay, a break that they weren't able to take advantage of. So there's still work to do for the Packers. Jordan Love has to cut down on the interceptions, although the one he had, that terrible pick six, which you can't do in that situation. I don't believe he saw, I think it was Kirby who had the interception. I don't think he saw him at all.
And what's his name? He put his hand up. So he probably saw that, doesn't see the defender there. But again, in that situation, it's way too crowded. And you don't have a clean look at it. Like, you have to be doubly sure in that down in distance at that time of the game. Like, it's an unforgivable decision to make whether you saw the defender or not.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's just the decision making. It's got to be better. Situational awareness. He had another play. I think it was in the fourth quarter. It was 2nd and 1. They were real close to the goal line. And Tom Brady's yelling throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. And Jordan Love throws the same pass, that casual, lofted up. And it's like, dude, just get it out of bounds. Please just understand the situation. So again, room to grow, but I'm not worried. I'm excited for them to have the bye where they have it right now. Sounds like Luke Musgrave ain't going to be coming back no time soon. That man's on the scooter. He's on IR. So it's still going to be the Tucker Kraft show, but hopefully Jair Alexander, Evan Williams, comebacks healthy. Hopefully the rest will help Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs, who's a little bit banged up. I wish they would have stuck to the run game a bit more against Detroit, but alas, they went away from it. So.
I do like it's a very minor thing, but I do like 30. What's his name? Brooks.
Oh yeah, Chris Brooks.
Yeah, he not flashy at all, but I like that. Want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, they got a nice little running back room in Green Bay, and that's also why the Preston Smith trade that happened today, the Packers traded Preston Smith to the Steelers for a 7th-round draft pick. The only move that the Packers made for the trade deadline, which I was cool with. I didn't expect him to do too much anyways, but shout out to Preston Smith. He was a great Packer, one of the big free agent signings in the summer of spending that the Packers had when we brought the Smith brothers in, was Adarius and Preston. And Preston's been good. It's just the fact that now he's a bit older. I don't think they were going to try to have him on the team next year anyways. You got some young guys you can try to get more reps for, like Ngabare, Mosby, Cox, LVN, along with Gary. So, like, I get it. And also, people who are mad about it, think of it like this. The Packers traded a 7th for Malik Willis. So think of it as a Malik Willis for Preston Smith trade at the end of the day, if you want to make your brain think about it that way. But Preston's gone, and Zadarius finds himself back in the NFC North. He's playing for Detroit now, which, Detroit is going for it all this year.
Yeah, as they should. Like, they're clearly the best team in the NFC at the very least. I can argue they're the best team in the NFL. And they had a clear hole for a pass rusher with Aiden Hutchinson's injury. So it was relatively low cost. He's still a dynamic player. He knows the division well. He has a little extra juice coming back, I'm sure, because now he has smoke for 2 of the teams in the division. So, it's a solid move. Like, it's pretty low risk, pretty high reward. Like, we know who Zadarius is. So, I don't know, good move for them. I hate to admit it, but it is.
Right. Sometimes you got to tip your cap. Good move, Detroit. Y'all did your thing. And I'm happy what the Packers did as well. Get a little bit more draft capital going forward. So, any other football thoughts for you before we got here? I feel like Ken is quote unquote sick because of the Bears. I think the Bears made him even more sick, getting throttled by the Cardinals the way that they did. But any other NFL thoughts you want to get off?
I was just gonna say, like, I think that one last point on Preston Smith. I feel like the scheme shift, left him in a position where he didn't really fit what they were trying to do, and hopefully going to Pittsburgh helps him in that regard. Like, it puts him back into a position that he's comfortable with. Like, if I never see it again, but I won't ever see it again. I don't need to ever see Preston Smith dropping back into coverage ever again. Like, I'm sure he was fine for a 290 whatever pound guy, but it's not a great place to put a guy at his age, at his size, where he can wind up on like a running back or a slot receiver or something like that. It's just, I don't need to see it. So hopefully the younger guys have a little bit more athleticism, so if that is a scheme theme, that they can kind of better exploit that.
Yeah, and I'm all here for giving LVN some more reps. I know people have been disappointed with how he's been playing so far and felt like they haven't seen as much from him. Well, he's going to have some playing time to really flash something. And you've been a big fan of Ngabare. I can't wait to see him out there more. Mosby's only played like 5 or 7 career NFL snaps at this point, but he has a half a sack in one of them. So let the young guy go. Let's see what he can do. So I'm with all of that. NBA, before I get into the the topics that we already pre-discussed, want to just say prayers for Gregg Popovich. He had a health scare over the weekend, wasn't with the team. He's away indefinitely from coaching. I've been hearing some different things about his health at this point. At first, it was like, yeah, he's okay. He just needs some rest. And then I'm hearing like there have been some serious concerns around his health. So regardless of which one it is, prayers to Pop, and just hoping that, he's doing all right, that he heals up good, and he's around for a bit longer, because that man is a legend. And he's also just socially somebody who I always enjoy hearing from, I'll say.
100%.
On the flip side, you have Joel Embiid, who was suspended for 3 games after initial reports said assaulting a reporter in the locker room. Since we've heard it was a push, a shove, people broke it up pretty quickly. But in case you missed the story, there is a journalist in Philly whose name I can't remember, Marcus Hayes, yes. And he wrote an article talking about Joel Embiid missing games, but in that article, he brought up Embiid's son and his dead brother. saying pretty much like he's wanted to have this legacy, and if he wants to have a legacy, then he better get on the court, which he didn't need to go the family route in order to make his point, but he did. So when Embiid saw him, he had some static for him. He had already mentioned him in a press conference earlier that week, and when he finally saw him in person, he let that man have it. And it's been a lot of conversation around, oh, Embiid can't do that. And I figured he was going to get suspended. But listen, violence is never the answer, except for sometimes when it is.
Like, honestly, he did what he did, and I'm sure he knew that there will be some type of penalty, but it's like, it's worth it. Honestly, like, some things are worth the penalty that you're going to pay for. And it's like, I don't think that the NBA needed to excuse it. Like, whether I feel like it was justified or not, like, you can't go around pushing reporters. But I would also, if I'm Embiid, I'm like, them 3 games are worth it. Like, I bet you won't disrespect again. Like sometimes you have to send a message. And like, that's one of the instances where, yeah, sure. I saw some of the media response was, top adjacent, where it's like, you attack one of us, you attack all of us. Yeah. But some of them were also saying, like, number one rule of this type of work is, like, don't say something in print that you wouldn't say to somebody, in their face. And he crossed that line and he got dealt with. And so, like, hopefully going forward, both of them have a mutual understanding. And because, like, it wasn't just the one. Well, I mean, like, it was the one article mentioning his son and his brother that was kind of like the inciting incident. But even after, like, Embiid mentioned that guy in the press conference, like, dude came back and wrote another article, like basically, like, you ain't gonna do shit. Like, that was the gist of it. And it's like, if you're gonna keep egging him on, like, and he has a history of this in Philly, like, he is that guy in Philly sports where he's gonna be the one to write, as far as I'm concerned, the entitled fan perspective. But like, some people occupy those lanes, and that's what he's chosen to do. So again, like, to me, it's like, it happened, it's over, it was dealt with appropriately, and hopefully that won't be an issue going forward. But I do think that rule that I cited, where it's like, don't say something in print that you're not willing to say. Don't say anything on print, don't say anything on TV, don't say anything in a tweet that you wouldn't be willing to say to somebody in their face, because
that is a fact. That is a fact. So I was like, Embiid did what? And then I was like, I bet it was old boy with the article. When I saw it I was like, I get it. I understand. But
I mean, not to be the old guy, but it's like, when I was growing up, like, people still got punched in the face for being disrespectful. Yeah. And like, I feel like, social media has kind of opened up an avenue where you can say whatever you want, and it's just, it's just words. But it's like, yeah, words have meanings, and actions
have consequences.
Thank you.
No, I'm with you on that one. Now, last week we had a conversation about the Bucks, and you were saying, things look the same. I'm not kind of feeling it right now, so on and so forth. Since we last talked, they had the games against the Celtics. They played, I think, was the Grizzlies game after last week. They played the Grizzlies. They played the Cavaliers twice. They still haven't won. Since we last talked. They are 1-6 at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, 15 in the East. Am I crazy for sitting here and being like, I think they're close. I think that they're close to figuring something out to start generating some wins. I'm still like, not a great start. Don't get me wrong. It's been disappointing losses. They should have at least 3 wins right now if they just played basketball the right way. But alas, you can't go back and change things. Am I crazy for feeling like they're close? Like, I think a run is coming.
I mean, it depends on what you mean by close and run, but I do think that they figured some things out. It'll be interesting to see how long Doc is Doc. And I don't mean that necessarily as disrespectful, more so like he's shown a propensity throughout his career to lean on his vets and to trust the guys and their bodies of work. It's like, if the vets aren't really producing the way that they should be, are you willing to play the young guys that you've now given an opportunity to and have, played pretty well, at least from my vantage point? Because I think that if you do inject more youth as athleticism, energy into the lineup, like that should hopefully, like once you get Giannis and eventually Chris back, like hopefully that's enough to kind of supplement what they're doing, and then the vets can kind of play themselves back into the rotation. Like not, like I think you brought up either last week on the show or in our private text, like he's never going to like completely bench Bobby Portis, but if some of his minutes can be shifted to an Andre Jackson, or because Chris is back, some of Taurean Prince's minutes come from Bobby's rotations, like maybe that'll be enough to where it's like it's an accountability thing. And if you're not producing and you're not doing the things that you're supposed to do on defense, like I have other options. Because that's the thing. Like I thought even coming into this year, like the Bucks have depth. It's like, how will that depth perform, and will they be willing to, shake things up, hurt some feelings, and make the decisions that are necessary to really get the team into gear? I don't know. It's a very long-winded way of saying I don't know, but I do see what you see, like the two games, especially against the Cavs.
Yeah.
They played pretty well. They had some mistakes down the stretch that cost them in both games.
Mm-hmm.
They were right there against a team that hasn't lost yet this year. So again, reassuring. They at least came out with the requisite energy against Boston, which again is progress. But they always get up for the teams that are quote unquote good.
It's them bad ones.
What are you going to do when you play Utah on Thursday? Or what are you going to do when you start getting to like the Washingtons and the insert bad team here in the middle of December going into January? Like, do you still keep that same energy?
That's the hope. And it's going to start on Thursday against the Jazz, where the Bucks have to come in. They got to get that win. The last game against the Cavaliers, the moment that Giannis was said, like, oh, Giannis isn't playing, I was like, we're about to get blown out. And the game started, and I was like, yeah, this is about to be a repeat of that game last year in Cleveland when we got blown out by like 40. Like, this is about to be bad. And then too, with that, I was like disappointed not to see Giannis out there, because in the prior game against Cleveland, you started to see that rotation shift. And I wanted to see how far Doc was going to go with that rotation as it continued into this game against Cleveland again. But without Giannis, you need Bobby Portis, who did play a lot of minutes. He actually played some pretty decent defense. He had some big defensive moments, still had some defensive lapses, and I'm still not crazy about all the times they choose to go to Bobby in the post as their primary offensive option or action. Like, against mismatches, I'm here for it. But in a situation, it was a part in the fourth quarter when Rollins got subbed out and Jackson got subbed out and Dame comes back in with Brooke. And they ended up in a situation where Okoro was on AJ Green and Spida was on Dame. And I'm like, ooh, go ahead, get the ball to Dame, because Okoro's been hounding dude all night. Get the ball to Dame. I think it's Mobley on Bobby Portis, and he chooses to do a post up. And it's not even just Bobby's fault. Dame's sitting here telling like, go to work. It's like, nah, brother, I need you to get that ball and you go to work in that situation.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I had the same reaction. But like what I think it is that, and granted, like Bobby had been playing like I don't know how many minutes straight at that point, so
yeah, he was tired.
But it's like, especially with Giannis out, like Dame is the only initiator. So if Bobby can go get his own buckets, like that's a possession that Dame can take off, where he doesn't have to expend as much energy. So I think that for Dame, it's kind of, maybe it's feed the big guy so that he can stay engaged. But I do think it's more so I got to conserve my energy to kind of carry this team down the stretch. So if I can steal a possession here or there where I just dump it off to Bobby and he's gonna go to work and I don't have to move around, and I can just stay one pass away. Like I think that's where that's born out of. I hate that they use that as a crutch, and I wish that they would remove it from their playbook. But like I get somewhat the reasoning behind it, especially when you look at the fact that they just don't have enough self-creators in the lineup. Too many specialists that aren't specializing in their specialty at the moment.
Yeah, Gary Trent Jr. can't find his shot right now. I think part of that for him is adjusting to the defensive load that he's carrying, and then just having to figure out where he fits offensively, because Gary Trent Jr. is more than just a catch and shoot guy. And a lot of times when you're the starting shooting guard in the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis, you're going to be a catch and shoot shooting guard. So I did see in the last Cleveland game as well, he was getting more possessions, just kind of dribble and driving, just trying to get the ball in his hands and create without just standing and catching. But Still not really getting into a rhythm yet, but I still got faith that he's going to figure it out. He's a way better shooter than what he's been able to do so far. So I'm not super worried about Trent. Want to see something from him. And then DeLon Wright, apparently he was on some like minutes restriction early in the season that wasn't really communicated too well. So hopefully, he gets better as well. But
Camille, you mean to tell me the Milwaukee Bucks weren't forthcoming about injuries and recovery and timelines? I can't believe it.
Yeah, that same team that said, if it was a playoff game, Chris would have been playing in the preseason. But alas, here we are, November 5th, and still
and that's the thing. It's like if you set expectations for one thing, like that's what people are reacting to. Like if you would have said like we're gonna bring him along slow, like it's not there isn't like maybe there has been a setback and like that's what they're dealing with. But if you set the expectation of he'll be ready by the start of the year or he'll be day to day by the start of the year, we'll work him in pretty quickly, and then we're 2 weeks into the season and he's still not practicing 5-on-5, like that's when people are gonna freak out because like if we're taking a long view, like I don't care if Chris is healthy on November 5th. I mean, I care, but like I don't.
It's not the most important.
Where they need to go, it's not that important. Like I would much rather have him take as much time as he needs on the front end to make sure that he's straight when we get to March, April, and May. But again, like if you're saying it was a routine there were routine procedures over the off season, he'll be ready to start practicing by training camp, and he'll be ready to go by game 1. And then that's never. Then every time those milestones come up, and you're just like, oh, I don't know, we'll see. We're gonna talk to blah blah blah. Like that silence creates a vacuum that people are then gonna fill with all their worries and doubts and conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Well, once he comes back, though, I think the roster again will make a lot more sense. I do think you see Bobby's minutes come down a bit for Chris. Doc has mentioned wanting to play more small ball lineups. And the very few minutes we have seen where the Bucks go small with one traditional big on the court, it's looked all right. So I know Doc wants to get more into that when Chris is back. I'm assuming some Chris Prince tandems along with that one big. I'm thinking Giannis in certain lineups, what you can do with that. But I think especially with their bench units, they might want to look to lean into that a bit more unless the opponent's size forces them to be big.
One thing I've noticed, and this is my little soapbox rant for the week, with the Bucks struggling so far, it just feels like, especially within the fan base, but I've seen it outside of it too. It just feels like this is everybody's opportunity to kind of, push their agendas or settle scores or just get all the takes off that they, the Bucks were too successful for them to get off previously, where it's like, oh, Brook is trash and their defense struggles because Brook is on the court. It's like their defense is even passable because Brook is on the court and the craters as soon as he comes off. Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham are, dumb and dumber. And it's like, I can't point to really anything thus far that I can say is definitely coaching. Like, maybe it's the accountability piece, but like there isn't anything strategically where I'm just like, oh, that don't make sense. It's like they're doing the best that they can with the roster that they've been dealt. I don't think it's stupidity on their part that the Bucks are 1-6. People just hate Pat, which he had a down year last year. He had a pretty good preseason. He struggled a little bit since we started the regular season. That doesn't make him the worst player in the league. It doesn't, it's just it's everybody, like whoever you don't like on Chris Middleton ain't even played, and it's still Chris Middleton's fault that the Bucks aren't playing well. It's annoying, and I've started just like not engaging, but I see it, and it's just
it's a lot. It's a lot, and I see it with like the comments in like Locked On Bucks. Like I'll be sitting here like, y'all, I get it. It's frustrating, but it is still early. Like, I know it doesn't look good, but the reality of it is the Bucks are 1-6 and they're still like 3 games out of third place. Like, they're struggling, but other teams are also struggling in the East right now as well. There is some time.
There are 2 teams in the East that are above 500.
Cleveland and Boston.
Yeah.
Everybody else is 500.
Yeah. So don't jump out the window. Like, they're not going to be the 15 seed in the East. Definitely by the end of the season. They won't be the 15 seed probably by the end of this calendar year. So, like, honestly, I still think that they're a playoff team. At the very least, like they'll be play-in. Like there's no way that they completely miss the postseason. So like I'm not stressed about it, and I'm not worried about it in like the long term. I just don't think that their ceiling is as high as I'd hoped that it would be coming into the season. But there's still time to turn around, and hopefully things click and they kind of go on the run. But like to your point, like I do see like the glaring stuff that was, flashing red this time last week. They've cleaned up, bar the Memphis game. Like they cleaned, and like really that was a lot of like bad shooting luck. Like they just could not hit a shot in that game. And I feel like Doc has said it where he's like the offense kind of
messes with their defense
and their energy, and just when they're not making shots, like it's tough for them to do all the other things which is a bad sign for a good team. But
you gotta figure that out.
Right now, I wouldn't call them a good team at the moment. So
you just got to lean on the defense. Don't let the offense dictate how you play on the other end, because even though they kept missing, like at the end of the day, they still made one more three than the Grizzlies did in that game. So like you got to figure out a way to win. You got to figure out a way to play that defense when the shot's not falling. I see Serial Sensei in the comments added that he's already tired of seeing Boston win so much. I feel you, man. I feel you, but at least they got one loss. They got one L, in that record, unlike Cleveland, unlike OKC, the two last undefeated teams in the NBA.
So I'm going to say this because I'm assuming that they're not watching. I actually put this in as like a dummy topic, and I was going to slide in who we play for here. But we can engage with it because I actually am curious to see, like, have your take on it. So we have two undefeated teams remaining in the NBA. But I'm going to switch the question around a little bit.
Okay.
Who's going to be the first team to lose? Oklahoma City, Cleveland Cavaliers, or the Kansas City Chiefs?
Ooh. Okay. Well, let's see Cleveland, because the basketball games, they're going to happen before the next Chiefs game. So Cleveland has at New Orleans Wednesday versus Golden State Friday versus Brooklyn Saturday. So they got a back-to-back this weekend. It's their next three OKC games at Denver tomorrow night on Wednesday, Friday versus Houston, and then Sunday versus Golden State. So both of these teams have to see Golden State, and honestly, the Warriors been playing some good ball. I mean, Denver's been playing some good ball as well. Well, you know what? I walk that back. They have not been playing good ball. They've gotten some wins over the last few games, but not the exact same Denver Nuggets team we've grown accustomed to. The Pelicans are injury depleted at the moment. I see Serial Sensei added that the Chiefs have some kind of divine intervention, so it won't be them. I agree with that, because the way they keep winning, it's like, how?
Yeah, they have the Broncos on Sunday, then they have the Bills the following week, then the Panthers, and the Raiders. So Raiders Chiefs game, that must be on a Thursday. Oh, that's Thanksgiving.
Okay. I'm going to say the first loss goes to, I'm going to say OKC. I'm going to say the Thunder. I think that Friday, well, listen, Denver could do it on the road, and Denver is always a difficult place to play. That could be it. They have Houston on Friday.
Well, one thing to think about with Denver is they just lost Aaron Gordon.
Wait, when did this, how long?
This afternoon, he's out for at least a month.
Ooh. And
like, honestly, of all these three teams, like, I feel like Oklahoma City looked the best out of everybody, like Chiefs included. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the Aaron Gordon.
They're the best, but it's like Cleveland has the Pelicans, which not worried about. The Warriors could be tricky, but they're at home against the Warriors. Then they have Brooklyn. Then they're at Chicago, at Philly, against Chicago again, and Charlotte. Cleveland's schedule, if they get past Golden State on Friday, I think they continue winning. Unless, Embiid probably not going to be back by 13.
I mean, honestly, the way that, even if he's healthy by then, he'll be suspended. So
that is fair. That is
fair. Aaron Gordon, sorry. It says we'll miss multiple weeks. So
okay. Yeah. Sly in the comments added that he also thinks it's OKC to get that first loss. And it's not that I don't think they're a good team. It's just like, based on the schedule, I think it's going to be them. Where are you
Yeah, but
landing
like,
at?
they're not gonna go 82-0. So like the
Right.
most is gonna come it's gonna come at some point. Yeah, I've just been really impressed with Oklahoma City. Like they are who I thought they were, and like they don't even have the full team because Hartenstein's out. The full team that they expected to have this year, and they're just, Chet seems to have taken the lead. Shea is Shea. J-Dub is J-Dub. Like they just have so many guys that are young and hungry, athletic, and
Smart.
their chemistry is like off the charts. Like it's so stark, watching a Bucks game and then seeing the OK City walk off interview where it's like, I don't know if the Bucks are around each other that much outside of games and practices as much as Oklahoma City is in their post game stuff. So I think that there's good vibes in OKC. Which obviously is not to say that they won't lose a game, but I just that was kind of like my opportunity to kind of
give them some love.
wax poetically on what they're building in OKC.
And they've been doing some interesting things. They even do like that real small ball lineup where they don't even have a traditional center on the court. And they just out there with Lou Dort being a big, and they just doing what they can, and J-Dub out there. Like they can do some really fun things defensively. The Thunder, I think, is the cream of the crop in the Western Conference, easily, in my opinion.
Yeah. I was going to say with Cleveland playing Golden State, like granted they're at home, so like that should help, but like just seeing how much trouble they have with like AJ Green and Dame raining threes on them the last two games. Like Steph is back healthy. They have Buddy as like what do they call him, the splash buddy. Like and they're playing really well. Kuminga is doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that being like the one if of the games that you read off, like that's the one where I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure about that one. But Oklahoma City also has Golden State, so like it can be there for them too. Yeah,
they both see him soon within their next 3 games, so I think that can be the gotcha game for that first loss for those two teams. I think I had one more. Oh, so again, Ken's not here, but he did drop in the doc just that AD has been playing top tier basketball to start the season. How much he loves it. I'm going to ask you, are you concerned with the recent injury news around Anthony Davis? Because he tweaked his ankle in last night's game against the Pistons. And then after the game, it was said that the ankle injury that he's been dealing with is not new. It's been reoccurring since the summer. And it's something that they've been actively just trying to manage. AD has been hooping. I think he still leads the NBA in points per game. Like he's doing his thing. He is right now like the engine offensively for that Lakers team. But when I heard this is an ankle thing that's been bothering him since the summer, I was just like, I don't feel great about that.
Yeah, much like Embiid, I'm never not worried about injury and Anthony Davis being in the same sentence. So, like JJ has implemented some fun stuff.
Yeah, he has.
It seems like the energy has been like the number one boost. Like people are just bought in so far. And they like where things are going. So hopefully injury doesn't derail that for them. But it's always something that you have to be weary of if you're a fan of a team that has Anthony Davis on it. That's
a fact. Any other NBA thoughts you want to get off before we start to wrap up here?
Nah. I'll save it for off air because I want to ask you a question about a thing, but like I don't want to put that out to the
whole world. I feel you. Okay, well, last thing we have here, just a shout out.
I was just gonna say, like Tim is listening because he just retweeted the show. So if he gets a leg up.
Retweet. That's a blind retweet. He ain't gonna run this one back. He ain't running this back. But before we get out of here, just a shout out to the LA Dodgers, the World Series champions. They defeated the Yankees 4-1. Freddie Freeman was the MVP. And I saw on social media just like Freddie's story, like with his dad and how he lost his mom. And I was like, that's someone who I can cheer for. So congrats to the Dodgers and the World Series championship that they got. Live it up, LA. Live it up. And
we're coming for y'all next year.
If the Brewers to spend a little bit more money, not get cheap when they, although every year they get cheap and they still find a way to win, which is probably why he feels emboldened to keep operating the way that he does. But alas, that's the show this week. As we mentioned, it's going to be a quick hitter. We're going to save wrestling for next week. Come back NFL, NBA, slide in the comments doing the big poppy dance. I hope everybody can be as anxiety free as possible this evening on election night. I know it's a lot riding on the decisions that your fellow countrymen have made. But at this point, you cast your vote. All you can do is wait to see what the outcome is going to be. And what it's going to be is what it's going to be. And we deal with it when it comes. So hopefully, the world doesn't end or anything like that. So
if you are in Milwaukee and can hear the sound of my voice, you still have an hour to vote if you have not already done so. So please help me, please.
To that man's point, if you haven't voted yet and there's still time, you can hear our voice, go and do it. If it's past the voting deadline, again, just sit and wait, see how it all shakes out. So we're going to get out of here for this week. Again, follow the podcast on all social media platforms at Technical File, TECKNICAL on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Technical File Podcast on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to follow me personally, you can catch me at Camille Monet, CAMILLEMONAE on Twitter, Instagram, and these 2K PSN streets, but I'm not too tired to play the game.
Yeah, I'm not too good with the ad lib, so you're on your own there. One thing before I wrap up on mine, I did want to say rest in peace to Alderman Brostov. We went to UWM together. One of the nicest people that I've ever met in my life. Like, I was saddened to hear the news yesterday. Praying for his family, friends, everybody that's known him. I met him playing basketball at Klachi. I'm not the most outwardly friendly person. I'm generally not very approachable, apparently. But he, again, like him just being himself, came up, started conversation, was super nice. Just a little short guy with the yarmulke out there hooping. And so rest in peace to him. And like Milwaukee really lost like a really important leader, somebody that cared about the community. And hopefully like we can all kind of take the baton from him, like take what he started, continue to spread love around the city, try to make the city better. So did just put that before we signed off. But if you want to follow me on social, you can only follow me on Twitter, where I am at Bucksburner.
That's all you get. That's all you get.
Let's see if I can do the other two. Pause. K Harris 216 on Twitter, everyday_gentleman on Instagram,
and Snapchat.
Sure. And at Timkins3 on social medias,
Twitter and Instagram, and I think TikTok for Timkins3. That's it for the week, y'all. We up out of here. Enjoy, be safe, take care of yourselves, and we will see y'all next week.
Let's just play that music. Hit 'em hard. Let's go. Red TECK. Running back like where's my replay? Got it all in the mix, no DJs. Said it's hard in the game like these damn miscellaneous. Spitting real talk for the entertainment. All the pods I the game up and they get smacked back down like a WrestleMania. Tell them that better get their nose ready at a home city. Get it boss, keeping on the low setting. And you know what you said, so we never gotta get telling everybody else that you get ready. Ain't nobody else doing this like I. Better keep them cameras and microphones hot, cause this one's a vibe. Gotta run this race.